Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question comes to us from the True Stories collection. Amy deals combat damage with Lightning, Army of One, while she controls Annie joins up. After all triggers resolve, Amy casts a Lightning Bolt, which normally deals 3 damage. How much damage is dealt in total? So, if we read Annie joins up, we can see that it will cause triggered abilities of legendary creatures Amy controls, such as Lightning, to trigger an additional time. Now, a triggered ability is just an ability that uses one of the words at, when, or whenever to introduce its trigger condition. Importantly, if you do not see one of those 3 specific words, it is not a triggered ability, even if it looks like one. And Magic has a couple of things that kind of feel like triggered abilities, but they don't use one of those words, so they don't count, which can be especially confusing for people with a background in some other card games where their equivalent of triggered abilities aren't quite so picky. So, for example, whenever Lightning deals combat damage to a player, that uses the word whenever, so that's a trigger condition. And then everything that comes after that would be the effects. So since Lightning's ability triggers an additional time, you would get the effects twice. In other words, there would be 2 effects telling you to double the damage from Lightning Bolt. Okay, so when the Lightning Bolt resolves, let's take a look at what will happen. A source Amy controls would deal 3 damage. So each of the doubling effects will apply to that, the first one doubling it to 6 and the second making a total of 12. We'll notice that the thing that doubles the damage does not use any of those 3 words, meaning it does not count as a triggered ability. So Annie joins up will not be able to make that trigger an additional time. So that's the answer to our question. The Lightning Bolt damage is quadrupled to 12. Now, a bit of an advanced note, the actual scenario was with Lightning Army of One, but let's imagine that we had dealt damage with Leori, Sparktouched Hunter. As you can see, this card has a triggered ability that triggers when it deals damage, so of course that would trigger an additional time. Amy would get to choose a Planeswalker type for each trigger. Interestingly, the effects of Leori's ability include another triggered ability. You can see that until end of turn, whenever you activate one of the appropriate Planeswalker's abilities, you can copy that ability. Now, it turns out that for technical reasons, Annie joins up will not make that triggered ability trigger an additional time. The short version is that officially that does not count as a triggered ability of Leori. It's more like a triggered ability of a different ability that Leori has, which isn't quite close enough to count. For a fuller explanation, check out my video on Annie Joins Up plus Grishnak Prash Instigator. Now, let's go through exactly what would happen for this scenario then. Leori deals damage, causing its triggered ability to trigger. Annie Joins Up will make this ability trigger an additional time. Amy could choose 2 different Planeswalker types or the same one twice. I'll work through choosing the same one twice here and leave the other option as an exercise for the viewer. After Amy activates a loyalty ability of her, let's say Jace, that will cause the triggered abilities set up by each instance of the Leori on damage ability to trigger. Because there are 2 of these, that means the Jace loyalty ability will be copied 2 times. Remember, even though the thing that copies the Jace activation is a triggered ability, it doesn't officially count as a triggered ability of a legendary creature Amy controls. So Annie Joins Up will not have the copy ability trigger any additional times. Accordingly, the Jace ability will be copied twice, so the instructions of that ability will happen 3 times total. For some more practice with this concept, I recommend my video on Faramir, Prince of Ithilien, plus Roaming Throne, where I worked through a similar example. That's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling. Until then, I hope you have a great day.